Hello, and welcome to an introduction to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. My name is Eric Vigasa. I am a pre-sales engineer here at Boyer. And today what we really want to do is just spend some time giving you an introduction to Business Central and a walkthrough of some of the functionality. So if we look at our agenda today, again, what is Business Central? We want to spend some time looking at the functionality. We want to talk a little bit about compliance regulation. Business Central is a cloud-based ERP product. So Microsoft is making sure that that data is secure and some of the compliances that it's meeting. We're going to go through general user navigation. Part of that navigation, we're also going to look at some of the connections with Microsoft 365 products. So we'll see how Business Central can work with Excel, work with Teams, work through Outlook as well. And then finally, we'll spend some time just looking at some core functionality. We'll walk through a couple of transactions. Based on our time here, we don't have a lot of time to get real deep, but we do want to talk through some of that with you. A little bit about Boyer. We are proud to be a winner of a U.S. Partner of the Year award with Microsoft. We were founded back in 1994. We are headquartered in Minnesota, but we do have consultants really in all time zones across the U.S. We've got 440 active clients nationwide. Some of those clients are on some on-prem products, such as Dynamics GP, Dynamics SL, Dynamics NAV. Part of that is we are taking some of these on-premise clients to Microsoft Cloud. So we have been named the past few years one of the top 5% of partners taking clients to the cloud. And we do have a nonprofit focus here. So about 1 out of every 5 of our clients is a nonprofit organization. We definitely focus on other companies, other industries, but we are very proud to have that nonprofit focus here. So as I mentioned, Business Central does sit in Microsoft's Azure cloud environment. So there are some regulations that they are up to date on. So one of the first ones is data privacy. They do follow the general data protection regulations. It is a GAAP compliance system. They do follow the International Financial Reporting Standards. And Business Central also can support up to 25 languages and localization. So if you are an international-based company and you do need some functionality in another area of the world, Business Central very easily could accommodate that different language and those different accounting standards as well with those organizations. So let's go ahead and hop into Business Central. Just kind of give you a quick walkthrough of the solution. So I'm just going to launch into it. I'm going to launch a web browser. Business Central is browser agnostic, however, so you can use any browser you want. I just use Edge to, again, kind of show how Business Central is part of the Microsoft suite of products. So this is my user I'm signed in as. If I want to connect to Business Central, I could just go right to a favorite, but I actually want to look at all my different Microsoft apps. So I'm just going to click on the waffle here, go into all of my apps, and there's where Business Central sits. So again, my user's license for all these different products, and Business Central sits here with my Excel, with my Outlook, with my Teams, Word, and so on. If I go ahead and connect into Business Central, you're going to see it's going to pop this up. So again, I could bookmark it, go right into production, but this is a way I could actually navigate to a sandbox environment. So part of Business Central does give you access to 3 sandbox environments. These are totally separate environments from your production tenant. And you do have the ability to maintain these environments on your own. So there is an admin center that lets you kind of manage these environments. So you don't have to rely on us as a partner. We're more than happy to help you with it if you'd like. But that is some of the tools Microsoft has in place. So I'll just go ahead and launch into my production environment. We'll kind of walk through some of the functionality in here. So again, my role within the organization is I'm a business manager. So I'm really looking at everything kind of cash in, cash out related. First thing you'll see how I can navigate is I can click on these different functional areas that I have. So I could go look at my chart of accounts, do a journal entry, process fixed assets, run financial reports. If I click on cash management, here's where I could do cash flow forecasting, process my AR receipts, my vendor payments, run my reconciliations. If we look at sales, there's where I've got my customers, items, quotes, orders, invoices, purchasing, same kind of thing, vendors, quotes, order, invoices. So you can see with Business Central, it is very feature rich. So all the core financial modules are there, very good supply chain functionality, manufacturing functionality. There's a jobs or a project module, as well as service management. Beyond these 2 clicks here, I can actually bookmark any page. So this could just be a list of pages I want to get to. This could be reports that I commonly run. So if I want to go and click on my vendors, you'll see it's going to take me into one of my list views here. You'll see these list views all throughout the system. This is whether I'm looking at master records in this case, or transactions, journal entries, my inventory items. These list views all have multiple functionality. So one thing I can do is search through this view. So you could have thousands of records you're trying to look through and you're trying to find a specific vendor. Well, I can just start typing in Boyer, it's going to find Boyer. Maybe I only know the main contact. I can start typing in Toby, it finds Wild World Importers. I've got the ability to do filtering in here as well. So I've got all these different fields I can filter on. One of the filters I have is I want to just focus on my vendors that I have a balance with. So I've already created a view and saved that view that I can just click on. So here's where you can see I've got a filter where balance is just greater than 0. Also within this view, I can change my sorting. So maybe I want to look at my vendors with a high balance in here. I'd have the ability to drill back on here as well. So I can drill back on this balance and actually see the transactions. I'm in another list view. So from this list view, I could search, sort, filter, so on and so forth. I've also got this little icon up here, and you're going to see this all throughout these pages as well, where I've got the ability to do one of these 4 things. So I can take this data and I can output it to Excel very easily. If I open up this file, you'll see I've now got this data in Excel. So again, this could be vendor information. This could be all my transactions for a certain time period. This could be all my open sales invoices. This could be all my unfulfilled sales orders. I'm able to get that data into an Excel document. I've also got the ability to do an edit in Excel here. And this is going to function a little bit different. So when I open this file up, what you're going to see here is as soon as I click enable editing, Excel is going to authenticate my user. So it's going to make sure, does Eric Vigasa have rights to make edits to my vendor record? So it's going through the Business Central security layer. So here's where it's going to authenticate that user. Once I get authenticated, I'll be connected in. And now I'm actually able to modify my data. You will see Edit in Excel all throughout the system. So it could be on items, on price lists, on customers, sales transactions, journal entries, even posted documents. As we mentioned, though, with some of the compliance, it is GAAP compliant. So there are very few things on posted documents you can change. An example of a sales document, it could be a description or a due date. On a purchasing document, maybe a 1099 box or 1099 amount. That's about it. So even here, when I click on balance, you'll see that field does show up red. So that is an audit sensitive field. I can't just go and change it. However, if I go look at my phone numbers here, for example, I can see the number for Boyer. Well, that's wrong. I'm going to go ahead and change this over to be 4300. That's the right number. If I had addresses in another file, I could do a VLOOKUP, pull it all in. If I want to change the formatting of my phone numbers, maybe I needed to change some formatting around email addresses, make all those changes. Once I'm done, I just click this publish button. It's going to push that change up into Business Central. When I come back in here now, we'll see that this phone number will be updated. So I'll just go ahead and refresh this page. And there we've got that phone number updated now. So if I just go ahead and click back on my company name here, it's going to take me back to my primary page here. There's also really good search functionality in here. So here's some actions where I can do some new documents, but I actually want to look for a transaction. So I had a customer call up. They were concerned about an invoice. They want me to pass that on to their sales rep. They weren't sure what the invoice number was. They just said it had 29 in it. So I can just go ahead and put that search in here, click find, and Business Central is going to go ahead and find every document that ends in a 29. So I've got some invoices here. I've got some purchase invoices, GL entries, what's an invoice I want to look at. There's the one from Trade Research. So again, I'm in one of these list views. I could send this data out to Excel. I could share this page through Teams. I could email this link to somebody in Teams, but I'm going to take it a step further. I'm actually going to drill down into this invoice. And now this is the point where I want to share this out through Teams. So I want to get this invoice over to their sales rep, Jeff Bush. So I'm going to come into Teams. I'll go ahead and put that link in here. And so now here's where you can see some of that integration with Teams. So now I send this to Jeff. Jeff gets this view. He can go ahead and click on the details button. And it's going to pop open that invoice in Teams. So Previously, I was looking at my data through Excel. I started looking at my data through Microsoft Edge. Now I'm actually looking at my Business Central data using Teams. So Jeff can see this invoice. He could actually take actions on here. So if he did have rights to make changes to this document, he could uh, issue them a credit, give them a 10% off on this one. But this way, we're able to have dialogue now back and forth on this transaction via Teams, and we make sure we're communicating on the same document. So again, this could be at a customer level, at a journal entry level, so on and so forth. Finally, some last things on the kind of this navigation here. You can see I've got some queues and some fact boxes, so I can click on any of these and see the ongoing orders that we haven't fulfilled yet. I can see I've actually got $50,000 in open AP. I am able to set what these thresholds are. So right now for our organization, 50,000 is okay. Once it gets over 65,000, maybe we want this to flip over to red. I can click on these views and I can see the data behind here. Anytime I'm at a data screen like this, a list view here, whether I'm looking at the journal entries, this case I'm looking at the payables invoices, I can click on this find entries, and this is going to show me every touch point this transaction had in the system. So I could drill back, see the original invoice, or maybe I just want to see that complete GL impact. Again, another list view here. Got that same flexibility, same option. So again, everything's really kind of tightly connected together. And finally, down here at the bottom, I've got a few other visualizations. So I've got a customer aging report here. I can click on one of these aging buckets and see the transactions making up that amount. If I wanted to go and look at the journal entries, I certainly could. As I just showed you, I could go look at the specific invoice as well if I wanted to. I've got a little mini trial balance report here, so I can actually drill down and see what our revenue is looking at. I do have the ability to drill down on a specific account number, and now here's all the journal entries making up that amount for, in this case, the month of May. Again, if this is the data I want in Excel, I can certainly export that information out to Excel. And finally, on this page, you'll see I've got a Power BI link here. So if I actually pop this report out, Business Central does have connections with Power BI. In this case, though, this is actually a report pulling dynamic CRM or dynamic sales information data into Business Central. So with Power BI, I can actually connect to multiple sources of information and then render that information into Business Central if I so choose. So here I can flip through some of these different workbooks and look at this information. I am able to highlight one of the areas. You can see all the graphs kind of change and adjust to that area. So a lot of potential to really kind of display and visualize my data. And again, I do have the ability to combine multiple data sources. So if I have dynamic sales data up in CRM, I've got ERP data in Business Central, I can combine those two sources together and have some visualizations such as this. Back, go to that report. One other thing with some of the Microsoft integrations I just want to show you real quick as well is with Outlook. So there is an Outlook plugin. So this is a case where our vendor Boyer is following up on a past due invoice. And so you can actually see I've got a link here to this invoice number. Well, this is the Outlook add-in for Business Central that's detecting this is a document number in Business Central. So I can click on that document number. It's actually going to bring me right to that specific transaction. Now, this is dependent on your customer or vendor typing that document number in correctly. If they get it wrong, you'll actually get a search box in here where you can then search for that specific transaction. But here I could pop this out so I can see that invoice a much bigger format. But again, I'm in Business Central here, so I accessed it via Outlook. But now if I need to take a correction, I certainly can. If I want to look at if there's any comments on this document, I'd be able to see that. If I needed to print this document out, I can take some actions there as well. I've also got this contact insight. So if I click on here and go to contact insights, this is actually going to direct me now into that vendor information in Business Central. Again, I still need security to be able to see this. So if I don't have access to my vendor information, I won't be able to get here. But now here I can see we've got some attachments on file. I've got their open balance. I can see a little aging graph in here. I've got the fact boxes. So if I want to go look at any posted invoice, I'm able to do that. But maybe this is the attachment I want to see. I can actually see we've got an MSA in here. Click on that. I can open up that file. And there's my document. Likewise, if I want to take a look at that open balance that we had on the system. I can click on this balance, and now I can see any of these transactions. So I've got a past due invoice here. I can open that up, and now I'm looking at that specific invoice. I can expand this out, be able to see that invoice bigger. I also do have the ability from here, if I want to initiate a new document, so maybe I've got a customer that emailed me and said, could you please get a new sales order going through the system? I can create a sales order right here from Outlook. It'll default all that customer information in for me so that I'm able to then just start creating the sales lines and get that order going through the system. All right, so let's just look at a few little setup pages here real quick, give you an idea of how some transactions flow in the system. So again, here's my vendor. I'll just look at Boyer, for example, some general vendor setup information. If I expand out this back box, there's where those attachments sat. These attachments, I can offload them into SharePoint or an Azure Blob storage, for example, if I wanted to. So again, I could have Business Central working with SharePoint. That is an optional setup. If you wanted to go right into the Business Central database, you certainly can there. But let me go ahead and create a transaction. So I've got a couple options for transactions. I could create I'll just do a purchase invoice, kind of give you an idea. We've already seen those pages a little bit. So I can do more of kind of a standard invoice here where I've got some header information. I've got lines on here with Business Central. My lines could be items. Items can be non-inventory items or service-based items. But I can also record right to a GL account. So if I don't do inventory, but I still want to have kind of this PO purchase invoice concept in place, I can do that. I don't know what my GL account number is, but I know Boyer is charging us some consulting services, or I'm sorry, Wide World Importers. I can just start typing that in. It's going to find, again, that search functionality in Business Central, find that account number for me. I can put the quantity in there, put the dollar amount, and I can keep going through some of these layers. If I want to preview what the postings look like, you'll see this all throughout the system. I'm able to run a preview on this report. Now I can see the GL entry that's going to get created. I've also got the ability to do a purchase journal, it's called, or a sales journal. Why I'm going to show you this is with Business Central, anytime I'm in a grid page like this, whether it's a general journal, a bank transaction, even lines on a sales order, I've got the ability to copy and paste from Excel. So here's an example where I've got my Excel document. Really, the only requirement is I've just got to make sure that my columns line up with my document. That is important because Business Central does give end users the ability to personalize pages. So if I want to kind of lay this screen out the way I want to see it, maybe description is more important to me. I want to drag that over. I certainly have that ability. Maybe there's some additional fields in here. So I do multi-currency. I need that currency code in here. I'm able to drag that out here and drop it in. So again, we got to make sure that our Excel file does line up with our page we're trying to paste into. You do have the ability to secure this as well. So if you create a layout, this is how we want people in our organization to do our data entry. We can do that, upload it into their profiles because this is user specific, and we can lock this down. But from here, if I come in to my Excel document, I'm just going to go ahead and copy these cells, paste that value in. Where my cursor was focused. Let's just try that again. It looks like I actually have an issue here where my columns are not lining up. So let me go ahead and delete this record here again. Let's show it to you on the GL side as well. As I mentioned, we do have the ability to do this really in any of these grid pages. So this is just an example of a journal entry screen here. Go ahead and clear this out. Let me open up my GL sample here. So I've just got a little payroll entry that came in. So same thing we're doing here. I've just got this lined up where my columns should be lined up. So I'll go ahead and copy these values. I'm going to come up here and paste that in. Oh, I can see my problem here. So I've actually got an external document column set up. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out because that does not align up here. Let's try this paste one more time. There, it finally worked. So there are those lines defaulted in here. In this case, I want Business Central to set that next default number. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it renumber. And here's where you can actually see some of Business Central, how it leverages dimensions. So here's my main account number, but over here, I'm using dimensions to track additional information. Dimensions in this case are not just financial values. So I do have the ability to categorize to a customer group. In this case, because it's a payroll entry, customer group just doesn't apply, but I do want to code it to where the different areas are. So again, I'm an international organization, but in this case, this is all for my North America. And you can actually see here, my offset is actually going to a bank account. So I do have flexibility in Business Central to do bi-directional posting. So if I want to put a vendor transaction in here, I certainly can. So if I go ahead and preview this posting, you're going to see two sets of transactions are being created. It's going to create my journal entry for me with my offset to cash, as well as my bank entry for me, because I'm going to be able to now reconcile this payroll entry and have that $5,000 showing up against my bank account. So if we just look at dimensions, dimensions are one of those areas I don't really go to very often. So I'm going to click on the looking glass up here, and I'm just going to type in dimensions. Go into that page. So what this search is doing now is it's showing me all the different functionality. So it's showing me I've got 12 pages in Business Central related to dimensions. I've got some reports related to dimensions. I could go to Microsoft Learn and actually read how to use dimensions, but I want to go to the setup page. So here's some of my examples. So with Business Central, you can actually set up 8 of these categories, up to 8 if you so choose. And these can be flexible. So if I'm tracking customer group today, but I decide, 3 years, this just isn't meaningful to us anymore. We're really not using it. I do have the ability to change the dimensions I'm tracking to. And again, this is system-wide. These are not GL functionality. So I can take expense transactions, vendor transactions to my customers, as well as sales transactions. So I can kind of get a better view of profitability of a customer. Maybe this is how I want to track projects. I just need some kind of simple project tracking. I'm able to do that. But here I can look at my department values. So these can be alphanumeric, but again, I can set up a new department and that's ready to be used with my transactions. Dimensions, we like to try to set them up so they default from a lot of different areas, so you don't have to worry about keying them in, but you certainly then do have the ability to select which dimensions should be coded to a transaction. Last thing, I'm just going to pop into sales real quick. We'll just look at sales orders. Big thing just want to show you here is we already looked at a purchase invoice screen. This is a sales order entry page now. Very, very similar. So Microsoft's done a great job of kind of keeping these uniform. So if you know how to do a purchase order, you know how to do a sales order, if that's what your function looks like. I do have the ability to expand a fact box here. So if I'm looking at a specific item, I can come look at the details here, and the system's actually going to tell me, do we have that item in stock? And I can see right here, no, you don't. So we got to get a purchase going for this. So again, good supply chain functionality. If I wanted to run a requisition worksheet, it would create all the POs where I'm short on quantities or where my safety stock quantities are dropping down. Again, I've got warehouse functionality in here as well, so I can have my warehouse actually do the pick, pack, ship for me. We've got barcoding functionality in here as well, and I can put attachments on here too. So if I have any kind of document attachments, I can layer that in here. Last thing I wanted to show you was just how we can, again, use Power BI for some financial reports. So Business Central does have a built-in financial reporting tool. I could run some of my financials from here. I can create my own financials in here, but I do have the ability to leverage Power BI to do that as well. So this is just an example of a report packet. You can actually see I've got 6 different reports in here. I can click on my income statement. Just got to expand my filter out here to get all of my years. So I'm going to grab all of my years. And now when I look at this report, I just want to look at last year's income statement maybe. So I can go ahead and filter that to 2022. So what you can see here is I can have kind of more of that traditional income statement, as well as, again, some visualizations in here. I want to look at a balance sheet report, same kind of thing. I can pick my year, look at my report numbers. I can also include a subledger report in here as well. So I want to look at my customer aging report. I'm able to click on that, and now I can see that information. Again, I could filter down to specific customers. If I wanted to, I'd be able to output this to an Excel file if this is what I want to see. But again, it gives me some good summarizations of my data. I could have a map plot point on here if I wanted to, so I could see what regions are we selling a lot into. So again, a lot of strength, a lot of flexibility with Power BI. So with that, just wanted to thank you for attending. If you would like more information on either Boyer and Associates or Business Central, I do have some links there for you. You can also feel free to contact us at info@boyerassociates.com if you'd like any additional information. Again, very high level. If you want to get deeper into the system, please let us know. We're more than happy to spend time to make sure is Business Central fit for you. But again, thank you for attending, and hope you found some of this information useful. Thank you.